Chapter 262 Bailey Hongzhuang had only just remembered the unwilling, idle little guy and immediately brought him out of the primordial chaos ring. Baisher's whole body was covered in soft, fluffy fur, making him seem just like a cute puppy as he incessantly pulled on Bailey Hongzhuang's robes. "Master," Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher on her shoulder. Baisher's face was very happy, intimately rubbing against the crook of Bailey Hongzhuang's neck. She patted Baisher's head. Although she still didn't know what sort of demonic beast he was, Bailey Hongzhuang still liked him very much. Dongfang Yu looked Baisher, who had suddenly appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang, his deep eyes flashing with surprise. "Who's this little guy?" "My contract beast." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled beautifully and then frowned a little, "Although I still don't know what kind of demonic beast it is." "Contract beast?" Dongfang Yu was startled. Such a contract beast, could it be that this young noble miss is raising it just as an ornamental contract beast? But that doesn't seem to match Bailey Hongzhuang's usual temperament. "Ah. This little guy is a dog?" Dongfang Yu reached out to pet Baisher as he spoke. The originally docile and obedient Baisher suddenly bared its fangs, glaring at Dongfang Yu viciously. Dongfang Yu pulled back his hand, his eyes still smiling. "I also don't know what sort of demonic beast this is." Seeing Dongfang Yu think of Baisher as a dog, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. Could it be Baisher really was a dog? Her legendary reputation. She had originally wanted to become a famous existence of Xingxian continent, but it seemed like there was already a misstep in her plan. At this moment, Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qingyue were about done talking. When they turned and saw Baisher on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulders, their faces were both filled with astonishment. "This is Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast." Dongfang Yu introduced them. "Gong Shaoqing, do you know what kind of demonic beast this is?" Gong Shaoqing inspected the plump, little adorable thing before looking at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. "I don't know." Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Just now, she had clearly seen Gong Shaoqing smirk a little at her contract beast's uselessness. Contract beasts weren't something easy at all. Every cultivator only had one chance to get a contract beast, so if one got the opportunity, they would definitely never waste it. Though of course, wanting to find a contract beast wasn't at all easy. Many cultivators were so poor that they couldn't even afford the chance to contract one. As Azure Water School's special enrollment students, their futures were limitless, so wanting to get a contract beast wasn't at all an impossible task. A contract beast's biggest use was its power in a battle. But Bailey Hongzhuang's contract beast only seemed to have one purpose: acting cute. "But, it's cute." Gong Shaoqing walked forward, his voice falling into Bailey Hongzhuang's ears. 3 black lines appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead. That sentence should be considered a compliment, right? Then how come from Gong Shaoqing's mouth, it sounded like something completely different? Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing continued to cut the armored rhinoceros until it was completely dissected. On the side, Lu Qingyue waited with Bailey Hongzhuang. "Hongzhuang, your contract beast is so adorable." Lu Qingyue's beautiful eyes were bright, completely helpless against Baisher's cute appearance. Chapter 263 Can I hug it? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher. Recalling his previous aggression towards Dongfang Yu, she shook her head. "This little guy doesn't like anyone else but me, so he might bite." "Oh." Lu Qingyue was somewhat disappointed but still smiled. He really knows his master. Baisher glanced at Lu Qingyue lazily before happily snuggling into Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, a bit uneasy. Little Black and Little White glanced at each other. Little Black muttered angrily, "This guy stole our seats. He's a contract beast just like us, but look at the difference in treatment." Little White curled his lips. Baisher was lying happily on their master's shoulders while they could only pretend to be ornaments on her head. "Heart really hurts." Little White clutched his chest and dropped his head. "So depressing. You guys are also my contract beasts?" Bailey Hongzhuang's clear phoenix eyes were filled with confusion. "We never made a contract, have we?" Even though Little Black and Little White had been calling her master ever since the primordial chaos ring acknowledged her as its owner, they never actually made a contract together before. Master, when you contracted with the primordial chaos ring, you also contracted with us. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes became even more confused. Even supposing Little Black and Little White's words were correct. Wasn't everyone only allowed to contract one demonic beast? I have 3 contract beasts. Little Black eyes curved until they seemed just like crescent moons. Master, you're the owner of the primordial chaos ring, so of course you're different from normal people. There's no limit to the number of contract beasts you can get. As your strength grows, the amount of contract beasts you may get also increases. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes brightened up. Although she only found out about this today. Having no limit to her contract beasts really was so convenient. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips stretched into a smile. The only regret she had about her contract with Baisher was his lack of fighting power. It must be known that until your strength reached a certain level, contract beasts were very, very helpful in a tough battle. Since she had missed such a huge assist, she was obviously a bit regretful. But since now that regret no longer existed, she was naturally very happy. Master, Baisher can see other people, so when can us too? Little Black asked miserably, his face filled with hardship. Speaking of that, they were here first, but Baisher had gotten the first victory already. Bailey Hongzhuang felt herself blush with shame. It wasn't that she was unwilling to let the 2 fluffballs to see others, but who told her contract beasts to be so outstanding? So far, no matter if it was Baisher or the 2 fluffballs, she didn't know the species of any of them. Baisher looked like he was just a little puppy, but the 2 fluffballs, they were just too conspicuous. Wait for me to get stronger. Her dark phoenix eyes were serious and determined. Baisher looked completely harmless, so others weren't that envious. But Little Black and Little White were really too special. Not everybody could stay untempted. Little Black and Little White looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's serious face and didn't continue to talk. They understood Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. Dongfang Yu quickly put away the leather. There was nothing else of value left on the armored rhinoceros's body. Its flesh wasn't tasty, so they just left it there. So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly, run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dongfang Yu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare, 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Chapter 264. We're already done with the armored rhinoceros, so let's head back. Dongfang Yu's voice was gentle. Originally we could have stayed in Luoyun Mountains for a while, but since we made a bet, it's better for us to not tarry. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly, then let's leave early. The 4 no longer stopped, preparing to leave Luoyun Mountains. But at this moment, countless demonic beasts suddenly let out a loud cry, rising and falling in succession, echoing through all of Luoyun Mountain. Roar! The loud, terrifying sounds never stopped. The demonic beasts seemed to be provoked and restless, like the pack was in chaos. The floor began to tremble as a strange mood spread through the air. The 4's faces all turned grave, sensing something bad. What happened? Lu Qinyue's beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment and worry. She had gone to Luoyun Mountains many times before, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Gong Shaoqing's face was heavy. You guys wait here, I'll take a look. Gong Deji, be careful. The moment Gong Shaoqing turned to go deep inside the mountain range, Lu Qinyue's voice rang out. Gong Shaoqing nodded, I'll be back very soon. Dongfang, take care of them. Don't worry. Right now, Dongfang Yu's face no longer had his usual teasing smile. His handsome face was prudent and serious, actually giving people an entirely different impression. The demonic beasts' howls grew even more fierce, the sounds of their roars intertwining in the sky. Their deafening bellows were almost enough to make Bailey Honghang's ears bleed. The noises were aggressive, and with so many different roars joining together, it was filled with spirit power. It could be said as a magical song. Bailey Hongzhuang's enchantingly delicate face was serious. Staring at the scene in front of her, a terrible premonition appeared in her heart. She had run into something like this before. It was a demonic beast tide. However, at that time, she was quite strong, so even though it had been a narrow escape, she still wasn't wounded by the demonic beast tide. But right now, she was just a newbie that had only begun to cultivate. Master, it seems like a demonic beast tide. Little White's words smashed apart Bailey Honghang's hope. This is dangerous. You have to leave Luoyun Mountains now, or you might lose your life. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with helplessness. It was her first time at Luoyun Mountains, her luck was simply too good. A demonic beast tide was the same as all the demonic beasts in the mountains coming together. It was very rare. All the demonic beasts were stampeding madly in the same direction. Anyone in their way would be directly trampled underfoot. The demonic beasts seemed to lose their wisdom and only knew how to charge forwards wildly, no matter what the species. All the demonic beasts on Luoyun Mountain, how terrifying was that number? So many demonic beasts rushing out at full power was truly a horrifying scene. If the horde overtook you, the only thing left was death. Gong Shaoqing returned very quickly, his handsome, cold face ashen. Quickly, run. It's a demonic beast tide. Hearing his words, Dong Fangyu and Lu Qinyue's faces turned deathly pale. With their cultivation levels, they might not be able to survive the demonic beast tide. Demonic beast tide. Lu Qinyue's face was wan, her voice somewhat unbelieving. This sort of rare, 100-year event was actually happening to them right now. Chapter 265. The four didn't even have time to talk with each other before madly running towards the exit. Right now, 1 second could spell the difference between life and death. Rumble. The floor constantly shook. Screams of terror sounded behind them, becoming louder and louder as the earth trembled stronger and stronger. The destruction power was even bigger than an earthquake. One moment of carelessness would leave you lying on the floor. The four all ran at their fastest speed possible. Bailey Hongzhuang's moves were swift, creating multiple shadows with nimble steps, just like a ghost. Gong Shaoqing's group of three's speed wasn't bad. As special enrollment students, they all naturally had their own cards. Right now, they had already escaped from the deepest parts of Luoyun Mountain. But how could running out of what took several days' worth to reach be so easy? Run faster. It's a demonic beast tide. Ah! Cries of alarm were everywhere as many cultivators ran beside Bailey Hongzhuang. When everyone saw the tide of demonic beasts, they all immediately dropped whatever they were doing and ran as fast as they could towards the exit. A demonic beast's greatest strengths were their power and speed, so their current pace was utterly terrifying. The tide ran over the earth, breaking down a countless number of trees. It was a disaster. Gong Shaoqing poured spirit power in both his legs, making him even faster. But he then discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was even faster than him. Dong Fangyu was also astonished. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements now were even more outstanding than when she had been fighting the armored rhinoceros. It seemed like her movement martial arts really were unusual. Bailey Hongzhuang had the weakest cultivation, but Lu Qinyue was the slowest. Her beautiful, flower-like face had long turned pale. Gong Shaoqing directly grabbed Lu Qinyue's hand, boosting her speed. Sensing the warmth of his hand, happiness flickered through Lu Qinyue's eyes. Gong Deji was holding her hand. But under such dangerous circumstances, Lu Qinyue had no time to lose herself in joy. Only by surviving could something be possible. Running at such fast speeds, everyone's spirit power was being consumed extremely quickly. Before long, they all started devouring their qi returning pills. At such a crucial moment, qi returning pills were extremely important. The curtain of night slowly descended. Bailey Hongzhuang's group still continued to run. Because of the seemingly never-tired demonic beasts chasing after them, the distance between them had slowly drawn closer. Bursts of pain came from all over their bodies. They had inevitably run into some brambles and thorns, riddling their bodies with cuts and scars. After running non-stop for an entire day, their bodies had reached its limits and their consumption speed of the qi returning pills was truly frightening. Lu Qingyue only had 4 qi returning pills left. She knew that Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu had both already ran out, so there were only these 4 pills left. Who knew how long they would last? She passed 3 of the pills to Gong Shaoqing and the rest, a flicker of sadness going past Lu Qinyue's watery eyes. Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu's faces were extremely ugly. They thought that the mission would be easy and didn't do a lot of preparation. Nobody thought that they'd end up running into a demonic beast tide. Qinyue, it's better to keep the qi returning pills for yourself. Gong Shaoqing's voice was indifferent but held obvious traces of concern. Chapter 266. Now their probability of surviving was getting smaller and smaller. If the remaining qi returning pills were to be split, probably none of them would survive. Dong Fangyu also didn't accept the pill. He thought the same as Gong Shaoqing. Gong Deji, Dongfang, with my speed, it's even more impossible to survive. You guys have to persevere. Lu Qinyue's eyes were firm and decisive, directly shoving the pills to Gong Shaoqing and Dong Fangyu. Out of the 4, Lu Qinyue was the slowest. If it wasn't for her, everybody's speed would have been a lot faster. She didn't want to implicate everyone. While everyone was trying to evade the qi returning pills, Bailey Honghang suddenly spoke up, I still have some qi returning pills too, so you guys don't have to worry. She had never liked being unprepared, so even though the mission they came on today wasn't very dangerous, she still prepared a lot of things just in case. But she never thought that this time, they'd actually have to use it. When they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, the 3's eyes all turned to look at her brightly. Bailey Hongzhuang was as calm as usual. As a pill master, the thing she lacked most were pills she could refine. The ingredients needed to refine a qi returning pill wasn't expensive and nor was it hard to refine one, so Bailey Hongzhuang had already prepared a lot. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 3 porcelain bottles and handed them out to the other 3. Dong Fangyu opened the bottle and peeked inside. Astonishingly, there were 10 qi returning pills inside. 1 person 1 bottle. Wouldn't that mean Bailey Hongzhuang had at least 40 qi returning pills? Weren't you just coming to learn through experience? Why did it seem like you came to sell pills instead? Dong Fangyu really wanted to ask. Up to now, the number of cultivators he had seen wasn't small, but this was the first time he saw a cultivator like Bailey Hongzhuang bring along so many pills. Too rich. Although qi returning pills were only first-rank pills, because many cultivators wanted them, the price wasn't at all cheap. Bailey Hongzhuang giving them so much at once was really grand. Lu Qinyue blinked, startled. Even as a pill master, she never carried around so many pills. This amount was truly enough to make others shocked. When Gong Shaoqing's face with facial nerve paralysis saw the pills, a crack appeared on his icy demeanor as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang deeply. Thank you. At such a dangerous moment, with these pills, there was hope. For them, Bailey Hongzhuang's act was extremely significant. Her beautiful face had a brilliant, careless smile. It's fine. If it still isn't enough, I have some more. When the rushing Dong Fangyu heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he tripped. This girl. Does she want people to die from anger? Gong Shaoqing was silent. Coming across such a prodigal and generous teammate, he really didn't know what to say. Lu Qinyue's eyes were thoughtful. As a pill master, she knew a lot about pills. Qi returning pills were an item that would be fought for by cultivators until there was not even a single one left. To have so many qi returning pills, what kind of background did you need to have? Or maybe Bailey Hongzhuang herself was a pill master. Lu Qinyue didn't leave out the possibility. After all, she herself was a pill master, so of course, it was possible that Bailey Hongzhuang was one too. Chapter 267. Everybody rushed forward. Behind them, a blood-curdling scream of a cultivator could occasionally be heard. Almost none of the cultivators had prepared enough pills, and their spirit power had long been completely consumed in their hurry to escape. At such a critical time, if they were to slow down even a bit, it'd be the end. Everybody's hearts were filled with dread, afraid that they would be the ones to fall. But even as Bailey Honghang and the rest ran with all their strength, the horde of demonic beasts only got closer and closer. Rumble. A huge sound echoed. Suddenly, the demonic beast tide was only a few hundred away and was approaching at a terrifying speed. They were done for. That thought appeared in everybody's minds. Under the tide of demonic beasts, there was simply nowhere to hide. But at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest suddenly came upon two paths. Take the left road. Gong Shaoqing immediately chose a direction. A mountain peak was in the middle of the two paths. Not even a demonic beast tide could stomp a mountain flat. There was a secret cave on the left road. If they could hide in the cave, they might be able to survive. Gong Shaoqing pulled Lu Qinyue's hand, quickly running to the left road. The other cultivators had long lost their own judgment, so when they heard Gong Shaoqing's words, they all immediately ran to the left path as well. If the demonic beasts could be said to have gone from slow to fast, seeing the cultivators in front of them scramble around like chickens, their speed grew even faster. The distance instantly closed by several tens of meters. Now, all the cultivators could clearly sense the demonic beast's breath behind their backs. Dongfang Yu reached out his hand, trying to pull Bailey Hongzhuang back. But because of all the brambles and trees they had to evade while escaping, the distance between them had grown a bit wide. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was very close to going on the right road. In her current circumstances, there was no way for her to change paths alone. Because if she slowed down even a bit, the only thing left was death. Bailey Honghang also reached out her hand. The only way to get to the left road was by accepting Dongfang Yu's help. But the other cultivators were running as if they were mad, separating Dongfang Yu and Bailey Honghang's outstretched hands. Bailey Honghang. Dongfang Yu's handsome face was pale. They had missed their only opportunity. Missing it would separate them in a way made them no different from the separate entities of yin and yang. Damn! Bailey Honghang ground her teeth. This group of cultivators was just too hateful. Now the situation was already irreversible. She could only continue on the right road. After reaching the crossroad, the demonic beast tide split up into two groups and continued to give chase. Master, it's dangerous. Little Black's face was serious. There was only a bit more than 5 meters between them and the terrifying demonic beast tide. At this point, even they didn't know what to do. Is there really no way? Her beautiful, delicate face was unwilling and helpless. She absolutely could not accept this kind of death. There's a cliff ahead. Little White suddenly spoke. Hearing that, Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes sharpened as her heart slowly came to a decision. Since she would die anyway, it was better to run to the cliff and jump than be trampled underfoot by the demonic beasts. Chapter 268. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed accelerated once more. Since she had already lost her will to survive, she might as well go all out. The originally constantly nearing gap between her and beasts was slowly starting to widen. Almost all the cultivators heard Gong Shaoqing's words and charged into the left lane. The other cultivators were all dead under the demonic beast tide, so Bailey Hongzhuang was the only one still running on the right lane. The precipice was just ahead. A decisive light appeared in Bailey Honghang's dark eyes. Right now, she had no other choice. Behind her, the demonic beasts were throwing themselves towards Bailey Hongzhuang, their mouths opened up wide as cold light reflected off their sharp, bloody teeth. But just as a demonic beast's jaws were about to clamp onto Bailey Hongzhuang's neck, there was suddenly a loud roar. Roar! A young and tender, but fierce suddenly came from Baisher's throat, his small and weak figure forming a huge contrast with the three big, ferocious demonic beasts. It was extremely arrogant. But when Baisha roared, the originally 3 lunging demonic beasts actually stopped, trembling as they looked at him. Under that roar, the mad demonic beast tide actually stopped. Roar! Baisha roared once more, and the originally baffled demonic beasts started to crawl on the floor, their huge, terrifying figures actually shivering on the ground. Bailey Honghoung's dark phoenix eyes were filled with shock and amazement, her figure which was about to jump down the cliff abruptly halting. Bailey Honghoung stared at the prostrating demonic beasts in front of her. Their reactions seemed as if they were instinctively afraid of Baisha. What kind of joke was this? These huge, terrifying demonic beasts were actually scared of the little guy on her shoulder? Little Black and Little White also looked at Baisha, astonished. They didn't expect that this little guy would actually have such an ability. Baisha lazily stretched before once again snuggling back on Bailey Honghoung's shoulder. He was sleeping, but those repulsive guys just had to disturb him. Bailey Honghoung was stunned. It seemed like her previous judgment was wrong. Baisha really wasn't a normal demonic beast, but its deviously cute appearance was simply to deceive. What kind of strength was enough that a single roar was enough to stop a demonic beast tide from moving? Nobody else had the power to but the demonic beasts at the very top of the pyramid. Demonic beasts and humans cultivated differently. For humans, no matter how strong the parents were, their children all still had to cultivate from the beginning. But demonic beasts had a more hierarchical concept. If the species was strong, then the offspring would be strong. Even a newly born demonic beast, with its species' deterrence power, could scare all the other demonic beasts away. Clearly, Baisha's species wasn't simple. Bailey Honghoung frowned, even more confused. She knew about almost all of the top demonic beasts, but how come she never saw anything like Baisha? But regardless, none of that mattered. Just knowing Baisha's amazingness was enough. The demonic beast tide was stopped and she had managed to survive without jumping down a cliff. Thinking of this, Bailey Honghoung couldn't help but sigh with relief. Baisha, let these guys leave. The corners of Bailey Honghoung's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Ordering so many demonic beasts felt so good. Roar! Baisha roared once more. The other demonic beasts glanced quickly at him before running away frantically, as if they had received amnesty. Chapter 279. In a flash, all the demonic beasts flew away in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisha who was on her shoulder. His face was filled with pride and anticipation as he happily rubbed against Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly wanting praise. But Bailey Hongzhuang just smacked Baisha's head, retorting angrily, "You could have just roared and solved everything. You almost let your master jump off a cliff." Now as she remembered how she had given up hope and nearly fell into despair, this little guy could have long fixed everything with just a call. When the eagerly awaiting Baisha was smacked instead of rewarded, his big, watery eyes filled with a misty sheen as his little mouth formed a pout. Its small body curled up in Bailey Hongzhuang's bosom, appearing very pitiful. Even though she knew that the little guy was deliberately acting pitiful, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had the heart to scold him anymore, instead of taking out the demonic crystal from the armored rhinoceros to give to Baisha. The tears in his eyes instantly disappeared when he saw the crystal. His eyes shined brightly as he immediately snatched the crystal and began to gnaw on it. Really, this guy truly was best at acting cute. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisha back onto her shoulders. Her plight was over, but what about Gong Shaoqing and the others? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, she suddenly heard a small sound. Her eyes turned cold. There was actually somebody here. Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit power surged through her body as she cautiously approached the direction of the sound, prepared to fight. At the back of the mountain, a big boulder blocked her sight. The other person was clearly behind that boulder. "Who's there?" Her cold voice was laced with a warning as she stared at the rock. "Miss, I'm only here to avoid the demonic beast tide." A hoarse, low voice came from behind the boulder, causing Bailey Hongzhuang to frown a little. From her voice, she could tell that he was in a weak state and injured. Life-threateningly injured. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes were sharp. She did not want Baisher's secret to be exposed. Holding the ice-chilling sword, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly sneaked past the boulder. A man was lying on the boulder, black hair pouring down in torrents beside him. His handsome face was like a piece of art carved by the gods themselves, sword-like eyebrows long and straight like a willow. His eminent eyes were deep like a black hole, cold and ruthless. He was wearing a soft black robe, the color deep and inky, propitious clouds embroidered on it with silver thread. It was luxurious yet subdued. The man's robes were slightly loose, revealing his exquisite collarbones and chin, radiating sex appeal. If you looked down just a bit, dark blood had already dyed the robes red. With only a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang could already tell the injury was very serious. But even in such a situation, the man actually still smiled. His smile was cold and violent, but it was still impossible to deny his handsome face, still filled with charm and fascination. In short, this man was extremely dangerous. Bailey Hongzhuang's intuition told her that the man wasn't simple and wouldn't allow himself to be touched. It's better to just leave. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang turned around to leave, an icy voice rang, "Woman, why don't we make a deal?" A trace of interest flitted past Moyun Ju's dark eyes. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher, he thought they were rather interesting. Chapter 270 The grand and stately demonic beast king actually acknowledged a mere mysterious earth middle stage cultivation woman as its master, and what was even more interesting, is that the woman didn't even know the one she had contracted with was the demonic beast king. While he was sizing up Bailey Hongzhuang, he hadn't missed the trace of ruthless killing intent flicking past her eyes. It seemed like this woman wasn't as simple as she looked. Right now, his injury was very serious. If he could get the demonic beast king's blood, he'd be able to heal much faster. Not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to walk away without any hint of hesitation. What about if I know who the contract beast sitting on your shoulder is? Bailey Hongzhuang's footsteps paused as she slowly turned to look at Moyun Ju, her penetrating eyes a bit sly. She asked coldly and bluntly, "Conditions?" "The little guy's blood." Moyun Ju's voice was indifferent but then added, "To treat my injury." When Moyun Ju brought up Baisher's blood, Bailey Hongzhuang had already decided to refuse. But then when she heard that it was to treat his wound, she became a little hesitant. "How about I cure your wound and you tell me Baisher's identity?" Moyun Ju's eyes flashed as he replied, "Woman, aren't you afraid that I'll kill you after you treat me? Don't forget that your injury is under my control." Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent, her bright, crystal-clear eyes filled with wisdom and self-confidence. Although she was definitely inferior to this man in terms of strength, he also wasn't her opponent when it came to medical techniques. Her simply reply actually hit a cold front. Moyun Ju glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully, "It's a deal." Bailey Hongzhuang slowly kneeled next to Moyun Ju, "Speak." Moyun Ju's eyes were a bit bright. Up to now, he had never seen a woman dare to be so close to him. And the most interesting thing was that even though this woman was so weak, she was still brave enough to face him confidently. He was always an existing feared by everybody, so talking to a woman this closely was a new experience. "The little guy on your shoulder is the demonic beast king." When she heard him speak, Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful eyes lit up, a wave of shock and amazement washing over her heart. She looked at the king character on Baisher's forehead and understood. Demonic beast kings were the kings of demonic beasts, classified as a mythical race. Demonic beast kings and other demonic beasts of the mythical race were a mystery and held power acknowledged by all the other demonic beasts. Also, there could only be one demonic beast king at a time. Only when the previous generation dies could the next generation be born. Even though she also never once saw what a demonic beast king looked like, she hadn't expected that this seemingly powerless, cute little guy would actually be the demonic beast king. She didn't doubt Moyun Ju's words at all. This was the most probable answer. Moyun Ju watched Bailey Hongzhuang's expressions change. It seemed like that was actually in her expectations. Gong Shaoqing and the others managed to successfully hide in the cave. Watching the demonic beasts zip by unceasingly outside, the three's hearts were all shocked. Demonic beast tides were truly too terrifying. Even though they heard about its dangers before, actually experiencing it made them clearly understand that their previous thoughts were far too simple. Lu Qingyue deeply sighed, her beautiful face still pale. This feeling of surviving the calamity truly made one feel endlessly grateful. Chapter 271. Check back soon. Such a terrifying demonic beast tide, if they hadn't luckily managed to find a cave to hide in, they long would have been trampled to death. Dong Fongyu's face was extremely difficult to describe, his eyes filled with a constrained fury. Bailey Hongzhuang, she. It was only one step. If he had managed to grab Bailey Hongzhuang back then, the current situation wouldn't be like this. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes also revealed his self-blame and unhappiness. If it wasn't for that guy disrupting things, how would Bailey Hongzhuang have sunk into such a dangerous situation? Although they didn't know what would happen on the right side road, they could already foresee what would happen from here. Bailey Hongzhuang had no chance of survival. It was their first time taking Bailey Hongzhuang out for a mission and the teachers entrusted her to their care, but they had allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to lose her life. Lu Qinyue's face was pale, her slim, fair hands covering her mouth as her eyes turned misty. They were just hunting demonic beasts together a few hours ago. Nobody expected that in such a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang would lose her life. Dong Fengyu could only feel a hard-to-describe pain and fury burning in the bottom of his stomach with no way to vent it. This was the first time he experienced such a feeling. It was strange but suffocating. Damn it! Dong Fengyu grabbed the collar of the elated man next to him, directly pushing the man into the air. If it wasn't for this man running between them midway, Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have died. Bang! Dong Fengyu ruthlessly punched the man's face, sending the man flying several meters away. Panic appeared on the man's face. He immediately understood why Dong Fengyu had hit him. Although his heart was somewhat sullen, he didn't dare to say anything. After all, Dong Fengyu was just too strong. Plus, it was him who was in the wrong. At such a critical juncture, he only wanted to save his own life. So even if he could choose all over again, he would still pick the same option. Bang bang bang. Dong Fengyu continued to punch the man's body, treating him as if he was a punching bag. But even though he did that, he was still unable to vent the suffocating pain and anger burning in his heart. The man was badly battered and spouting blood, but could only receive it passively. Gong Xiaoqing just stared at the man coldly, finally also sending the man flying into a rock with a kick. Clearly, Gong Xiaoqing's heart was also unpleasant. Lu Qinyue's eyes were filled with shock and confusion when she saw Gong Xiaoqing's kick. She had almost never seen Gong Xiaoqing do such a thing before. It was also the first time she had seen Dong Fengyu act so emotionally. As cultivators, they never really experienced the feeling of losing a comrade. But still, Dong Fengyu had never been as angry as today. Gong Deji, Dong Feng, Hongzhuang's accident was something none of us thought would happen. Lu Qinyue comforted. But Gong Xiaoqing and Dong Fengyu didn't reply. They clearly didn't care the slightest bit about Lu Qinyue's consultation. I hope Bailey Hongzhuang will be alright. Dong Fengyu's expression was sincere and earnest. Even though he knew the probability was extremely small, he still held a gleam of hope. Bailey Honghang looked at the wound going across almost half of Mo Yunju's body, astonishment flashing in her eyes. This wound, if it was just the slightest bit deeper, Mo Yunju definitely won't even have a single chance of surviving. But even like this, if Mo Yunju continued to dilly-dally, he'd be throwing away his life. The wound was faintly black. Mo Yunju had been poisoned. Chapter 272. But even with such a serious injury, this man was still able to sit here calmly to watch the show. Such a temperament was truly exceptional. Hurts? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. His injury was truly terrible. Mo Yunju's ice-cold face suddenly turned stiff as he stared at Bailey Honghang, astonished as if he couldn't believe what he had heard. Painful? Nobody had ever asked him if it was painful before. In his world, there was only success and failure. There were never any activities or emotions like pain. Never had a person asked him how he felt, so when this strange woman asked, his heart couldn't help but tremble for a split second. Seeing Mo Yun-ju staying silent, Bailey Honghang no longer hesitated. If she continued to delay it, Mo Yun-ju's life would truly be lost. Opening her bag of needles, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully began to detoxify Mo Yun-ju. She had to dissolve the poison before binding his wound. When Mo Yun-ju saw her moving so busily and resolutely, a trace of confusion crossed through his dark eyes. What was this type of medical treatment? Could it be those long-lost acupuncture techniques? If it was another person, he probably would have believed that they were only trying to stall for time until he died. But seeing Bailey Honghang's forehead beaded with sweat, he knew that she was seriously trying to help him. She was truly an interesting woman, still keeping her promises. With Bailey Hongzhuang's acupuncture, the black color in his wound slowly faded away, turning back into a bright, scarlet red. Mo Yun-ju's eyes gradually changed. He seemed to have found an amazing girl. The yunmong, cloudweed, he had swallowed was extremely poisonous and wasn't something an ordinary person could do anything about. Yet, this girl had actually managed to completely dissolve it. Bailey Hongzhuang meticulously finished everything, her actions familiar and nimble. A high-grade medicine was applied to his wound before bandaging Mo Yun-ju securely. Done. Bailey Honghang raised her eyes, reaching out to hand Mo Yun-ju a white porcelain bottle. There are 3 pills inside. Take one every day and the poison in you should be completely eradicated. Lowering her voice tone, Bailey Hongzhuang stood up. I'm going. She still didn't know what had happened with Dongfang Yu and the others, so she had to go meet up with them as soon as she could. What's your name? Mo Yun-ju's voice was muffled and hoarse as his eyes flickered with light. Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated for a moment before replying. Bailey Honghang. Mo Yun-ju. Taking note of his name, Bailey Honghang quickly walked back to Dongfang Yu's and the others' direction. She could only wish that the 3 of them were safe and sound. From Gong Xiaoqing's previously confident words, she knew that they should be hiding away in a cave. If there wasn't an accident, the 3 of them shouldn't be in danger. Dongfang Yu and the others were still in the cave, waiting for the demonic beast tide to pass to no avail. There were simply too many. Even after waiting for half the day, the tide still didn't finish, leaving them completely helpless. When will this damn demonic beast tide finish? Dongfang Yu's normally gentle and graceful appearance was gone, replaced by a tsunami surging in the depths of his eyes. Gong Xiaoqing kept silent, his eyes also dark and gloomy. The mood was suffocating. When the people in the cave saw Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu's faces, they didn't dare to even breathe. Azure Water School's special enrollment students were not only extremely strong but also had limitless potential. They simply weren't their opponents. Seeing the man beaten half dead on the ground, they couldn't help but shrink back their heads. They absolutely couldn't provoke them. Otherwise, an even more miserable fate would probably fall onto them. Chapter 273 The demonic beast tide rushed past, making the ground tremble violently. The force made some of the rock in the cave crumble. The cavern was tottering as if it would collapse at any time. Everyone was scared and on the edge. They could only pray for the demonic beast tide to quickly pass. At last, the floor's trembling slowly diminished as all of the demonic beasts passed them. Dongfang Yu quickly left the cave, going in Bailey Hongzhuang's direction without the slightest hesitation. No emotion could be seen on his handsome, jade-like face. His mood was extremely complicated. He truly hoped that nothing happened to Bailey Hongzhuang, but was also worried that she would hate him for his uselessness. Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qingyue followed, their steps extremely fast. They all wanted to hurry to Bailey Hongzhuang. After Dongfang Yu and the others left, everyone else in the cave all couldn't help but sigh with relief. Bailey Hongzhuang walked to the left path. The demonic beast completely devastated the surrounding area, turning it into a mess. The 100-something-year-old trees were all toppled over, ground into a fine dust. No matter what time it was, the havoc left by the demonic beast tide would always be terrifying. But after the demonic beast tide was over, both Azure Water School and the Mercenary Trade Union would suffer a big loss. "Master, there's 3 people approaching us at a high speed," Little White reported. Bailey Honghoung's bright phoenix eyes were filled with smiles. If she was correct, those 3 should be Dongfang Yu and the others. Soon, 3 specks of light appeared, zooming towards her at a high speed. They really were Dongfang Yu and the others. Dongfang Yu, Dong Xiaoqing, and Lu Qinyue's hearts were filled with worry as they rushed here, cutting apart everything that was in their way. The air was a bit bloody. The number of cultivators crushed to death by the demonic beasts wasn't few at all. While they were hurrying forward, a fiery red-robed figure suddenly appeared in their vision. In such messy and empty surroundings, the enchanting red figure seemed exceptionally eye-catching. Bailey Hongzhuang. Dongfang Yu rubbed his eyes, staring at that smiling face in front of him, shocked. "What? Is seeing me very strange?" A smile blossomed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Under the bright sunshine, her smile seemed even more charming. She didn't miss the worry and joy reflected in Dongfang Yu's eyes. And although the time they had known each other hadn't been long, he wanted to consider her a close friend. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed out to look for her as soon as the demonic beast tide finished. "You're safe." Dongfang Yu's voice was filled with doubt as he inspected Bailey Hongzhuang from top to bottom, discovering that she didn't have any serious injuries. Dong Xiaoqing and Lu Qinyue looked at the completely unharmed Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes filled with amazement. Their tense faces relaxed as they smiled with relief. "I'm all right." Her clear, beautiful face had a bright smile as her eyes seemed to light up. "One is bound for good fortune after surviving a great disaster." Dongfang Yu sighed deeply with relief. He had almost been scared to death earlier, so now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang was safe and sound, his mood quickly turned bright and sunny again. "How did you avoid the demonic beast tide?" Dong Xiaoqing's eyes were filled with doubt and confusion. He knew the terrain here very well. The right path Bailey Hongzhuang took was a dead end over a cliff. There was simply nowhere to hide. Chapter 274 Secret. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and didn't explain. Even though she had an explanation, it'd be hard for Gong Xiaoqing and the rest to believe it. Dongfang Yu rested his hand on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and smiled widely. "How you avoided them isn't important. It's a knot that you're safe." Seeing this, Gong Xiaoqing didn't continue his questioning. But this new little martial sister just seemed to be filled with mystery. Running into a dead end after a narrow escape from the demonic beast tide, yet still coming out completely unharmed, it was truly unimaginable. Lu Qinyue stared at Bailey Honghoung, her clear, soft eyes twinkling with doubt before finally disappearing. "Let's go back." Gong Xiaoqing slowly spoke. "It's impossible to continue out past the entrance, so let's just go back now." After going through so many twists and turns, they were also extremely exhausted. They didn't know when the demonic beast tide would finish, so the earlier they left, the better. Bailey Honghoung and the rest didn't object. Running practically all day and all night had left them completely drained them. Resting was the best course of action. The 4 returned to Azure Water School. Because of the demonic beast tide, no demonic beasts tried to attack them. Hei Mu stared at the empty cliff, his eyes filled with terror. His attractive face was completely ashen. He peered down the cliff, the clouds and mist hindering his sight. Underneath, there was a cool drizzle. If Bailey Hongzhuang fell off from here, there was simply no chance of survival. The young master had instructed him to carefully guard Bailey Honghoung before he left, so for the past few days, he had always been secretly watching her. In order to not influence Bailey Honghoung's training, he made sure to keep a set distance from Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was always stunning and never needed his help. But he never expected that there would suddenly be a demonic beast wave. Even though he was powerful, the demonic beast tide was still extremely difficult to deal with. Although he desperately wanted to save Bailey Honghoung, they were simply too far away. Bailey Honghang was the woman his young master liked. Ah! Hei Mu kneeled beside the cliff, his dark eyes filled with despair and self-blame. His young master trusted him and gave Miss Bailey for him to protect. But not only did he fail to protect Miss Bailey, but even let her die in the demonic beast tide. Thinking up to here, he hated that it wasn't him who had fallen off the cliff. Like this, what face would he have when he saw the young master? But he couldn't do anything. Even if he were to commit suicide for forgiveness, he would still have to report to the young master first. Hei Mu slowly got up. Although his face was extremely unsightly, his steps were still firm as he left Luoxia Mountain. Bewitching listened to Hei Mu's report, the handsome smile on his face abruptly stiffening. His bright, clear eyes turned dark as if all of its light was engulfed by darkness, engulfed in a terrifying storm. You said Honghang died in the demonic beast tide? His handsome face had frozen over, the smile on his face cold and iniquitous. His eyes were locked on Hei Mu, an enormous, terrifying power pressing onto him. The room trembled from the pressure, the atmosphere cold and dreadful. And Bewitching's face was even more frightful. Young master, your servant is incompetent. Hei Mu kneeled with both knees. He had no excuse. In fact, just standing in front of Bewitching unharmed was already extremely shameful. Chapter 275. Bewitching's face was terribly gloomy. To think that talented, cunning, black-bellied woman, that strong, resolute and decisive woman, the wife that he, Bewitching, had given his commitment to, would fall. Bang! Bewitching's palms struck the table case made from top-quality pear wood, the terrible energy of his strength spreading out. Hei Mu, who was exposed to the shock, directly flew to the wall, spraying blood heavily which poured down to the ground. And that table case has long been turned into powder. Hei Mu rose up from the ground, supporting his injured body. He kneeled once again in front of Bewitching. He failed to protect the young master's most important person, his crime deserved 1,000,000 deaths. Eyes that were indifferent and incisive, like a wolf on the prairie, flashing like cold daggers, with boundless killing intent. However, Bewitching eventually waved his sleeves. We leave for Azure Water School. As long as he did not see the corpse of Bailey Hongzhuang, he will not believe that wise and clever person will fall. But young master, you are now, Hei Mu had yet to finish his words, that hawk-like falcon sharp eyes have been locked on him. If he dared to say another word. Silence. Hei Mu did not dare to say any more words. The young master not killing him has been beyond his expectations. If he dared to say more, the young master will not be lenient. But, now is the critical moment for the young master to recover his right. If he leaves now, no doubt it will be a lot more trouble. Looking at Bewitching, whose eyes showed firmness and decisiveness, Hei Mu understood, the young master has settled his mind on it. It seems that he still underestimated the significance of Miss Bailey on his young master's heart. Originally, although he felt that the young master is quite different to Miss Bailey, other people do not know, but he is very clear, that the young master and Miss Bailey are husband and wife in name only and are not husband and wife for real, thus he did not regard Miss Bailey as a true young madam. It now appears, that Miss Bailey is the genuine young madam. Thinking until here, Hei Mu's heart sank. All of this is blamed on him. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 people rushed for a few days on the road. Because the entrance of the road was being occupied by demonic beasts, they can only walk around it, wasting a lot of time. On the way, almost everyone is talking about the demonic beast tide. From some people showing grievous expressions, it could be seen that they must have relatives who had died at the Luoyun mountain. Azure Water City. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 people arrived in Azure Water City, eyes showing surprise or delight fell on them along the road. Gong Xiaoqing and the rest as Azure Water School representatives, the news of them going to the Luoyun mountain to accomplish the mercenary task has long been known. Almost everyone is concerned whether they can return safely, because it is too difficult to escape from the demonic beast tide. In this half a month's time, the school's male and female students are simply worried. Dong Fengyu and Gong Xiaoqing are the objects of love for many female students. Even if they're not close enough, they are still their heart's fantasy. If the objects of their fantasy are gone, then their days in Azure Water School would be more boring. Lu Qingyue is also the dream of many men in Azure Water School, worthy to be called their dream lover. Even though many people know about Lu Qingyue's love for Gong Xiaoqing, this still cannot stop their inner fantasy. Not only Lu Qingyue, the newly enrolled Bailey Hongzhuang is also the object of affection for many men. On the appearance, on the beauty, Bailey Hongzhuang compared to Lu Qingyue is in no way inferior. Lu Qingyue already has a person she likes, but Bailey Hongzhuang is a new enrollee. They are full of hope. Chapter 276 Gong Xiaoqing's squad of 4 was comprised almost all of the dreams of the Azure Water School's students. If this squad of 4 died in the Luoyun mountain range, then they'd really grieve. Therefore, the moment when Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 returned to Azure Water City, voices of excitement slowly followed and spread. Senior Dongfang and the others have safely returned. All of them are safe and sound. I did say that with their strength they'd definitely be alright. At least I can breathe easy now. These past few days, I haven't been able to rest well. Today, I can finally sleep easy. Ah, the goddess of my dreams, I feel it's my fortune to be able to see her once again. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her lips carried a hint of playfulness. The college was filled with a youthful atmosphere and gave people a refreshing feeling. In the Azure Water School, the reputation of Dongfang Yu and the other 2 were not just hot air. Speaking of which, it is commendable that so many students worried about their safety, Master. Amongst the crowd there are many that are happy because you've safely returned. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to think that these discussions were entirely because of the other 3, Little Black couldn't help but give a reminder. As its master, how could she become a supporting character? According to rumors, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly arched her eyebrows. Then after spending a total of 3 days at the Azure Water School, other than Xia Jijie and the special enrollment students, she knew no one else. Master, right now your reputation is equal to Lu Qingyue's. The object of admiration for countless men. Ha ha ha. Little Black touched his head with both paws, his eyes bent into crescents. In just a few days so many people have Master in their thoughts. In the future, Master will become popular with the entire school. I don't know how many men will be captivated by her. With this though, Little Black couldn't help but be a bit proud. The 4 didn't tarry and swiftly walked into the Azure Water School. Running about for such a long time, everyone was exhausted. We first report to our teacher. This time with the sudden appearance of the beast tide, I don't know how many students were at the Luoyun mountain range. I'm afraid the teachers are very anxious. Gong Xiaoqing's calm and wise eyes flickered in thought. As a senior student of the Azure Water School and being familiar with the teacher, he understood what he should do. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others nodded slightly. Presumably, the teachers were also very worried about their safety in the past few days. When Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4 arrived at the teacher's office, Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo saw the 4 of them were safe and a touch of joy reached their eyes. Fu Hongbo promptly checked all 4 from head to toe. After determining that none of the 4 were seriously injured, he patted Gong Xiaoqing's and Dongfang Yu's shoulders. It's great that everyone could come back safe and sound. Lu Huayan sighed in relief. When they found out about the beast tide, they then knew that the situation wasn't good. They also learned that Gong Xiaoqing's groups and Cui Haoyan's group went to the Luoyun mountain range. In the past few days, they have been very nervous. The Azure Water School special enrollment students can be said as the class the school has the most expectations in. If 2 groups are lost at the same time, then it really would. Teacher, has Cui Haoyan's group returned? Dongfang Yu asked softly. Fu Hongbo sighed and shook his head. They haven't returned yet. I went to inquire about the team but did not receive any news. Dongfang Yu's face sank slightly. Though they often compete and bet with Cui Haoyan and the others, in private their relationship is very good since they are all brothers. Chapter 277 If Cui Haoyan and the others met with trouble in the Luoyun mountain range, they wouldn't feel good either. They will definitely safely return, Bailey Hongzhuang said gently, her voice full of reassurance and comfort. At this point, they've done everything they could do and can only sit and wait for new information to come. Fu Hongbo nodded slightly, his dignified face was solemn. This time, the number of students tempering themselves in the Luoyun mountain range was not a few. As of now, those that have returned numbered no more than 10. With these words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' hearts sank. Though they may not have known each other, they are all students of the Azure Water School. They also hoped that the others will be safe. Ah, the school's losses this time aren't small. It was evident from the dark circles under Lu Huayan's eyes that he didn't rest well these past few days. This time, even the principal and vice principal were alarmed. Bailey's Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes flashed. In regards to the principal and vice principal, she had a certain understanding. Azure Water School's principal, Ren Tianqiong, is a strong person. He is usually behind closed doors practicing. Unless there's something very important happening, he ordinarily wouldn't appear. The teachers are responsible for almost all the matters relating to the school. Vice Principal Huan Chuyu is a formidable rank for alchemist. In particular, his refinement skills can be regarded as having attained the height of perfection. Even in Fengbo country, the strongest alchemists are not higher than rank 4. Thus, this shows how formidable Huan Chuyu is. But this vice principal also immerses himself in studying the art of refinement all year long. Generally, towards the matters of the school, he also wouldn't lend his hand. This time, with both the principal and vice principal appearing together, the impact of the beast tide could be seen. If the loss of students this time is too high, perhaps we should slightly lower the threshold and recruit some students again. Lu Huayan's showed a bit of tiredness and helplessness. This sort of situation has never happened before in the history of the Azure Water School. There is always risks with students venturing out to temper themselves. In the past, it's not that there weren't practitioners that have died, but compared to this time the loss is too big. They almost didn't even know how to explain it. Gong Xiaoqing and the others had a touch of shock on their faces. Unexpectedly, they might once again admit students. From this point, they understood that this matter was extremely serious. The 4 of you must be tired after hurrying back here. Go and take a good rest first, Fu Hongbo said with concern. From the weariness these kids inadvertently showed, one could see that they definitely rushed back at top speed. Their bodies had long been overworked and must get a good rest. Then we will go back first. If there's a need, don't hesitate to call us. Gong Xiaoqing's handsome and cold face was full of sincerity. His firm gaze was full of reliability. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows, clear eyes revealing a bit of surprise. Originally, she thought that the cold-blooded Gong Xiaoqing would only practice by himself. She didn't expect for him to care so much about the school. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory. She lied on her bed, her body completely limp. Xiao He and Xiao Ba as well as Baisher each found a comfortable place to lay down. Bailey Hongzhuang breathed deeply. With these few days of rushing back with such high intensity, her body showed a hint of discomfort. She had to enhance the physical strength of her body. Thinking of this point, Bailey Hongzhuang left her soft bed. From the primordial chaos ring, she retrieved a large tub. After boiling some hot water, she poured the previously prepared body-tempering medicinal liquid into the tub. Chapter 278. Now her body was in a state of completely exhaustion. This kind of situation is exactly the best for absorbing the medical efficacy. Following the addition of the emerald green liquid, the originally clear water was slowly dyed with a slight shade of emerald green. The green color continued to spread in the water. It blended into the water, causing it to turn into an emerald green concoction. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped into the tub, warm liquid enveloping her body. Under the warmth of the hot water, her once strained muscles gradually relaxed. The medicine surged into the body through the pores, constantly enhancing the capabilities of the cells. Bailey Hongzhuang closed her eyes. This is also a type of enjoyment. The process of absorbing the medicine is not painful. On the contrary, it was very comfortable. However, to successfully absorb the medicine it is necessary for one to utterly exhaust every bit of strength in their body. This is not an easy thing to do. In this comfortable environment, Bailey Hongzhuang could help but fall into a deep sleep. It slowly turned into night, sky full of stars shining brightly. Creak. A small sound came from outside the window. Bailey Hongzhuang still kept her eyes closed. She's been too tired these past few days, so she fell into a deep sleep once she relaxed. Master! Little Black shouted to Bailey Hongzhuang through a spiritual transmission. To visit so late at night, that person probably doesn't have good intentions. Master! Little Black continuously called out twice before Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows twitched, regaining consciousness in a short amount of time. Her phoenix eyes were as deep as a tranquil lake with a trace of coldness. One hand grabbed the clothes next to her and covered her body. With flowing white clothing and cascading ink-like hair, she was like a watercolor landscape painting, both elegant and charming. At the same time, a figure in white appeared inside the house. Wifey! The familiar voice gave Bailey Hongzhuang a shock. In her line of sight, Bewitching still wore a soft white robe decorated with dark plum blossoms, looking fresh and refined. His handsome godlike face held a mischievousness smile, star-like pupils shining brightly and giving off an infinite brilliance. It's just that Bewitching's upturned eyebrows revealed a hint of ridicule and teasing. Bailey Hongzhuang became aware of the embarrassing situation she was in. Almost all the clothes covering her are white and her body was partially visible. Bewitching's two star-like eyes were clearly beginning to turn into a smoldering gaze. His sight locked on her body. A determinately ambiguous atmosphere filled the air. Entering in the middle of the night and not even through the front door. This isn't the actions of a gentleman. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows slightly turned. Her black lacquer-like eyes didn't show any nervousness. In fact, it was rather abnormally calm. Bewitching's beautiful thin lips curved into an evil smile, his eyes unscrupulously eyed Bailey Hongzhuang up and down. I am your husband. Is there something wrong with coming into your room late at night? Bewitching's current mood is very good, exceptionally good. On the way here, his face had been sullen and his heart uneasy. But upon arriving at the Azure Water School, he heard students talk about Bailey Hongzhuang's safe return. His heart went wild with joy, yet was still somewhat unsettled. He only wanted to quickly rush to see Bailey Hongzhuang, so didn't even think about knocking the door and just directly came in through the window. The moment he saw Bailey Hongzhuang, his heart went from the depths of hell to the top of the heavens. It's just that seeing such a charming and tempting picture in front of him, he became a bit restless. Bailey Hongzhuang choked, "You do know we aren't really an actual couple. We weren't before." "That doesn't mean we aren't now." Bewitching slightly raised his handsome eyebrows, his star-like eyes flashing with a cunningly ambiguous look. "Actually, hubby wants wifey to give birth to my child." Chapter 279. In a flash, all the demonic beasts flew away in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Baisher, who was on her shoulder. His face was filled with pride and anticipation as he happily rubbed against Bailey Hongzhuang, clearly wanting praise. But Bailey Hongzhuang just smacked Baisher's head, retorting angrily, "You could have just roared and solved everything. You almost let your master jump off a cliff." Now as she remembered how she had given up hope and nearly fell into despair, this little guy could have long fixed everything with just a call. When the eagerly awaiting Baisher was smacked instead of rewarded, his big, watery eyes filled with a misty sheen as his little mouth formed a pout. Its small body curled up in Bailey Hongzhuang's bosom, appearing very pitiful. Even though she knew that the little guy was deliberately acting pitiful, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had the heart to scold him anymore, instead of taking out the demonic crystal from the armored rhinoceros to give to Baisher. The tears in his eyes instantly disappeared when he saw the crystal. His eyes shined brightly as he immediately snatched the crystal and began to gnaw on it. Really, this guy truly was best at acting cute. Bailey Hongzhuang put Baisher back onto her shoulders. Her plight was over, but what about Gong Shaoqing and the others? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, she suddenly heard a small sound. Her eyes turned cold. There was actually somebody here. Bailey Hongzhuang's spirit power surged through her body as she cautiously approached the direction of the sound, prepared to fight. At the back of the mountain, a big boulder blocked her sight. The other person was clearly behind that boulder. "Who's there?" Her cold voice was laced with a warning as she stared at the rock. "Miss, I'm only here to avoid the demonic beast tide." A hoarse, low voice came from behind the boulder, causing Bailey Hongzhuang to frown a little. From her voice, she could tell that he was in a weak state and injured. Life-threateningly injured. Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes were sharp. She did not want Baisher's secret to be exposed. Holding the ice-chilling sword, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly sneaked past the boulder. A man was lying on the boulder, black hair pouring down in torrents beside him. His handsome face was like a piece of art carved by the gods themselves, sword-like eyebrows long and straight like a willow. His eminent eyes were deep like a black hole, cold and ruthless. He was wearing a soft black robe, the color deep and inky, propitious clouds embroidered on it with silver thread. It was luxurious yet subdued. The man's robes were slightly loose, revealing his exquisite collarbones and chin, radiating sex appeal. If you looked down just a bit, dark blood had already dyed the robes red. With only a glance, Bailey Hongzhuang could already tell the injury was very serious. But even in such a situation, the man actually still smiled. His smile was cold and violent, but it was still impossible to deny his handsome face, still filled with charm and fascination. In short, this man was extremely dangerous. Bailey Hongzhuang's intuition told her that the man wasn't simple and wouldn't allow himself to be touched. "It's better to just leave." Just as Bailey Hongzhuang turned around to leave, an icy voice rang, "Woman, why don't we make a deal?" A trace of interest flitted past Moyun Ju's dark eyes. When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Baisher, he thought they were rather interesting. Chapter 280. However, it was like the two circles were stamped onto Little Black's white furred face with blushers, bright red and eye-catching. "We didn't see anything, nothing at all." "What did you guys see?" Bailey Hongzhuang held her forehead with her hand. "The shame, ah the shame." Little Black ran back and forth on the table, bashfully covered his cheeks. "Don't know, no one has seen anything." "Do I believe that?" Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. While Little Black and Little White were continuing to act bashful without end, the White Lion had long gone to sleep. Although his eyes were still trembling. It seems that she can no longer take a bath in her room. Knock, knock, knock. Urgent knocks came from the door. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. "This guy hasn't left yet?" Opening the door, Bailey Hongzhuang discovered that it wasn't Bewitching standing outside, but Xia Jiqing instead. "Hongzhuang, it's a relief that you're okay." Xia Jiqing's pretty face was filled with excitement. She opened her arms and directly gave Bailey Hongzhuang a big hug. "Hearing the news about the demonic beast tide really scared me." Looking at the worry and lament in Xia Jiqing's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little warmth in her heart. Even though the trip to the Luoyun mountain range was filled with danger, coming back and seeing her friends being so worried made her feel very happy. "I am very lucky, how could I die so easily?" Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth curved into a brilliant smile. "Once I got news about your safe return I immediately rushed over. I'm glad to see that you are fine. Am I disturbing your rest?" Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. "I've already had a good rest." Under the effects of the medicine, every cell in her body was relaxed and strengthened. It was a moment of unspeakable comfort. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang speak so calmly, Xia Jiqing's pretty face bloomed with a bright smile. What in the world was going on with this demonic beast tide? Both of them sat on the edge of the bed and Xia Jiqing asked Bailey Hongzhuang about her experiences in the Luoyun mountain range. After she recounted the terror of the demonic beast tide in detail, Xia Jiqing was once again scared. It was fortunate that she wasn't strong enough and couldn't go to the Luoyun mountain range. Or else she would have already lost her life. "That guy, Bai Junyu, still hasn't returned." Xia Jiqing's were filled with worry. Even though she didn't have a good impression of this guy, Bai Junyu, he was still her friend. Naturally, it was inevitable that she would worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes sank slightly. Due to the demonic beast tide, the number of injured and dead practitioners were many. If it wasn't because of the timely appearance of the white tiger showing his authority, she didn't know how she would have ended up. One could only hope that Bai Junyu and the others would be able to make it back safely. Bai Junyu and the others' strength isn't weak, they should be able to return safely. I hope so. Xia Jiqing faintly sighed, the world is unpredictable. Recently the entire Azure Water School had an oppressive atmosphere, especially when a report came in that a certain student died. Her inky black phoenix eyes were heavy. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood. These days the practitioners of the Azure Water School didn't feel well in their hearts. After the two talked for a while, Xia Jiqing didn't leave and both directly went to sleep. The next day, the two heard light footsteps faintly mixed with anxious voices coming from the corridor. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing glanced at each other, eyes filled with a questioning look. After cleaning up a bit, they opened the door. They only saw Bai Junyu's door opened with Dong Fengyu and the others gathered inside the room. You're here. Dong Fengyu's constantly sunny face looked as if it was covered with dark clouds, heavy and full of haze. Chapter 281 Bai Junyu returned. Her clear and bright eyes held a touch of concern. If not so, everyone wouldn't have gathered here. Dong Fengyu nodded slightly, Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu are seriously injured, Zhang Yunfeng's situation is a little better and another person has died. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed, compared to before, this result was much better than what they had expected. However, hearing that another person died, her heart couldn't help but skip a beat. Are Bai Junyu and Cui Haoyan's injuries serious? Bailey Hongzhuang knitted her eyebrows. Their dormitory wasn't small, but at the moment both teachers and students were all gathered here. Thus couldn't see the situation inside. Very serious, especially Cui Haoyan. Vice Principal is diagnosing and giving him treatment right now. Hopefully he'll be alright. Her perceptive and bright eyes flashed. Vice Principal, Rank 4 Alchemist. To date, she has yet to see the Vice Principal's true ability. Bailey Hongzhuang explained the situation to Xia Jiqing before slowly walking towards the dormitory room. She also wanted to see Cui Haoyan's and Bai Junyu's injuries and perhaps be of some help. When Gong Shaoqing and the others caught sight of her, they slightly nodded their heads, but otherwise said nothing. At the moment, the vice principal was in the midst of diagnosing Cui Haoyan's condition. They were afraid of disturbing him, so they didn't make a sound. When Bailey Hongzhuang caught sight of Cui Haoyan's and Bai Junyu's appearances, her eyes faltered and a look of shock appeared on her face. She only saw Bai Junyu's pale face, ragged clothing and bared skin covered in scars. Almost no part was unscathed. Dark red blood stained his clothes, giving off a tragic aura. It could be seen from the scars that the flesh on his right shoulder was bitten off by a demonic beast. It's a miracle Bai Junyu could survive with such a serious injury. However, his injuries weren't the worst. Cui Haoyan's injuries were the most serious. She only saw Cui Haoyan's dark complexion and festering wounds on every inch of his chest that were obviously due to the corroding nature of a toxin. Now the toxin had already quickly permeated through his entire body. Large rotted sections of skin were horrifying to the eyes and even the blood from his body was black. Vice President, can their injuries be healed? Gong Shaoqing's brows wrinkled, his voice nervous and worried. Huan Chuyo's wise eyes held a sense of heaviness. As long as Bai Junyu can survive past this critical point, they'll be able to live. Cui Haoyan. The toxin he was infected with, even I can't tell what kind of poison it is within a short period of time. I could only give him a detoxification pill before researching the poison. Only, I don't know if this child can survive until I can find a solution. His words caused the hearts of everyone present to sink. Zhang Yunfeng even lost control and started to cry. It was my fault. It was because of saving me that the poisonous python landed an attack on Cui Haoyan. Zhang Yunfeng's tears were endlessly dropping down like pearls from a broken necklace. I was me who hurt him. Lu Qingyue patted Zhang Yunfeng's shoulders. Yunfeng, this was no one's fault. You shouldn't blame yourself. However, Zhang Yunfeng still stubbornly believed, it was all because of me. I would rather the person lying on the bed be me. Qingyue, give Bai Junyu the recovering yuan pill from my medicine box, the vice principal said. Yes, master. Lu Qingyue opened the medical box and pulled out one of the white porcelain bottles within, easily retrieving the recovering yuan pill and feeding it to Bai Junyu. Bailey Hongzhuang's dazzling pitch-black phoenix eyes showed a glint of astonishment. She looked at Lu Qinyin with surprise. It turns out that the vice principal was Lu Qinyue's master. Chapter 282. It was understandable that Lu Qinyue was already a rank 2 alchemist at her age. It turned out that she has a rank 4 alchemist as a master. Azure Water School's special enrollment student, rank 2 alchemist as well as the vice principal's disciple. With all these identities, it was no wonder Lu Qinyue's prestige in the Azure Water School was so high and many people saw her as the goddess in their hearts. Huan Chuyo's eyes fell on Zhang Yunfeng. You said Cui Haoyan was attacked by a poisonous python. What did that poisonous python look like? It was exactly the case that he didn't know what demonic beast the toxin came from. Once known, he'd be able to prescribe the appropriate medicine. After all, the detoxification pill was not an all-purpose cure. Targeted medicinal pills are much more effective. That poisonous python was about 20 meters long, as thick as a basin, and body covered in green scales, Zhang Yunfeng quickly explained. Lulin python. Huan Chuyo's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect it to be the Lulin python. Bailey Hongzhuang also immediately recognized the demonic beast Zhang Yunfeng described. Lulin python, a demonic beast with monstrous strength and highly toxic poison. The Lulin python lived in the Luoyun mountain range. Usually, with where they were they shouldn't have been able to come in contact with the Lulin python. This time because of the demonic beast tide, the demonic beasts came out in full force and so Cui Haoyan and the others ended up encountering it. The Lulin python's poison was strong and tyrannical. The usual method wouldn't be able to detoxify it at all. Huan Chuyu faintly sighed. His wise and affable face stricken with helplessness and deep regret. Although he was a rank 4 alchemist, the pill formulas he had on hand were limited. In ancient times, alchemy was very prosperous and various pill formulas and medicinal pills would emerge quickly and endlessly. Detoxifying the Lulin python's poison was also not impossible. Now however, the pill formula that could have been used for treatment had already disappeared. Even he was at wit's end. Looking at Huan Chuyo's expression, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Zhang Yunfeng was even more unwilling to wipe the tears from his eyes. His demeanor was extremely tense. Vice Principal, Cui Haoyan, can he still be saved? I can only try my best, but the chances aren't high. Zhang Yunfeng paled. Even the rank 4 alchemist vice principal said the chances weren't high. Then didn't that mean? Thinking of this, tears poured from Zhang Yunfeng's eyes. Vice principal, is there no other way? Gong Shaoqing asked. Unless we can find a rank 5 alchemist or a doctor who knows the vibrating needle technique. Hearing this, everyone's hearts sank. It was widely known that the person with the strongest alchemy skills is the vice president. Where would they go and find a rank 5 alchemist? As for a doctor knowing the vibrating needle technique. Now even doctors that know basic acupuncture are quickly disappearing, not to mention the vibrating needle technique. Of these two methods, none were feasible and were equivalent to having no solutions at all. Then what can we do? Zhang Yunfeng choked up, bursting into tears. Xia Jiqing curiously looked at Zhang Yunfeng. Does this Zhang Yunfeng like Cui Haoyan? Dongfang Yu slightly nodded, looking helpless and grief-stricken. Zhang Yunfeng has always adored Cui Haoyan. However, he usually doesn't show it much. Now, I'm afraid there's no hope of showing it. Ah, Xia Jiqing was surprised for a moment. She had only suspected, but didn't think it would turn out to be true. So pitiful. The Luoyun mountain range was so full of danger. It really makes people sigh in sorrow. It was at this time, when everyone fell into despair, that Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked up to Cui Haoyan. A trace of surprise crossed Huan Chuyo's calm and carefree eyes. What does this little girl want to do, standing out now? I'll try. Python is probably used because of the sheer size of the demonic beast. Its characteristics are more like a viper. Pythons are more constricting you to death, while some viper species are known to cause necrosis. Alert! Do not Google this as you have a weak stomach. Gadalicia. Chapter 283. Her beautiful and delicate face was brimming with self-confidence and assurance. Although her current cultivation was nothing to talk about, she has absolute confidence in her medical skills. She and Cui Haoyan aren't close. In fact, he looked down on her, although not maliciously. Since everyone was from the same class and Cui Haoyan was also good friends with Dong Fangyu and the others, she couldn't sit still and do nothing. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's eyes landed on her. The room was suddenly so quiet you could hear a pin drop. If the vice principal wasn't here, they really want to ask Bailey Hongzhuang if she was joking. Gong Xiaoqing, Lu Qingyue, Dong Fangyu and Xia Jiqing were dumbfounded as they looked at her. They had some doubts about what they just heard. From their understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, she wouldn't say anything without thought. However, believing that Bailey Hongzhuang had a method for detoxification was really hard. Huan Chuyu curiously sized up the little girl in front of him. She just stood there without saying a word, but was still radiant. It was impossible to ignore her. Right now, in front of him, she said such incredible words and yet still maintains an indifferent expression. Her face shined dazzlingly, looking self-confident and assured. This was a look full of confidence and strength. You have a way to detoxify Cui Haoyan? Huan Chuyo's eyes gleamed with kindness and wisdom. He had a feeling the little girl wasn't just giving lip service. Seeing that Huan Chuyu had such a good attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang, jealously lit up in many people's eyes. In the Azure Water School, if you could get the recognition of the principal or vice principal, you'd be able to reach the heavens in one step. For the sake of attracting the attention of the vice principal, this Bailey Hongzhuang is really daring. What's the use of attracting it now? If she isn't able to treat Cui Haoyan's poison, isn't that equivalent to giving yourself a slap in the face? Zhang Yunfeng's eyes flashed with bewilderment. Bailey Hongzhuang, it's the moment of life or death for Cui Haoyan. It's not an opportunity for you to show off. Cui Haoyan's condition is so serious that he won't be able to hang on for much longer. To delay the vice principal from looking for a treatment, Bailey Hongzhuang is really detestable. In Zhang Yunfeng's heart, there was no belief that Bailey Hongzhuang, who was so young, would be able to cure Cui Haoyan at all at Rank 5 Alchemist. It's simply impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang. Vibrating needle technique? That's even more impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang. Since it's not either one, wasn't she just grandstanding right now? Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Zhang Yunfeng with indifference, not caring. She just looked towards Huan Chuyu. I have a way. Then you try, Huan Chuyu said kindly. He is actually curious of what kind of trump card this little girl has to make her so confident. Is it possible that she has a rank 5 alchemist at her call? To Huan Chuyu, this possibility felt the most likely. Vice Principal, Zhang Yunfeng wanted to put a stop to it. She really didn't understand what the Vice Principal was thinking. Bailey Hongzhuang making trouble could be dismissed, but for the Vice Principal to even agree? Huan Chuyu slightly lifted his right hand, stopping Zhang Yunfeng from talking. With eyes that were as soft as water revealed a look of doubt and surprise, Lu Qingyue secretly criticized. Master, what is this? Bailey Hongzhuang moved to Cui Haoyan's side and thoroughly observed his condition, leaving behind all distracting thoughts and becoming very serious. Cui Haoyan had been wounded for quite some time and was hanging on to live by using medicinal pills. By now the toxin had already permeated through more than half his body. If the poison isn't detoxified by today, he won't have a chance of survival. With her right hand covering Cui Haoyan's, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly took his pulse. She had to clearly understand the extent of the injury before being able to start treatment. Chapter 284. Lin Jiesun had a ridiculing smile on her face. Bailey Hongzhuang is quite good at pretending. I want to see how she'll continue this play. A burst of silence fell over everyone. It was obvious that only a master would be able to treat Cui Haoyan's condition. Bailey Hongzhuang is honestly a far cry from one, and so there is no way they'd be convinced. After a moment, Bailey Hongzhuang released her hand. With a flip of her hand, she retrieved a needle box from within her yin-yang pouch and spread it open on the bed. Silver needles of various sizes appeared in everyone's vision. A look of surprise crossed their faces. They didn't think that Bailey Hongzhuang really carried a needle box. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly shot a glance at Lin Jiesun. She didn't recognize this woman. However, ever since she appeared, loathing and hostility flowed from this woman's eyes. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes on her, Lin Jiesun stiffened. She didn't get her composure back until Bailey Hongzhuang turned her eyes away. She thought in her heart, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes are really sharp. It was as if she saw through her in a single instant. She was surprised for a moment before her eyes were once again filled with loathing. She already heard from Lu Jingquan that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to kill Yunyang's little sister. It was really hateful. Girl, you know the art of acupuncture? Huan Chuyo's profound eyes revealed a trace of wonder. This was the only explanation as to why Bailey Hongzhuang carries a needle box with her. To his knowledge, those who have mastered the art of acupuncture are rare. Let alone that Bailey Hongzhuang was also so young. Whether it's medical skills of alchemy skills, you would need many years of hard training. Without a rich foundation as well as a solid understanding of medical knowledge, it would be impossible to master. Bailey Hongzhuang was very young. She probably hasn't been able to learn much. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly nodded, confirming Huan Chuyo's words. The poison Cui Haoyan was infected with was extremely potent and strong. It would be a bit lacking if you just rely on acupuncture. Huan Chuyo's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. His words were a warning to her. Rest assured, Vice Principal, I have it under control. Bailey Hongzhuang had an indifferent look on her face. Huan Chuyo's words did not cause her even a slight bit of nervousness. She had encountered a Lulan python before and even specifically extracted its poison. Of course, it was no problem for her to detoxify the poison. Ling Jinxin's eyes held contempt. She didn't think this Bailey Hongzhuang would be so arrogant, behaving so impudently right in front of the vice principal's face. Bailey Hongzhuang, it can't be that you're telling us that you know acupuncture, right? Ling Jinxin sneered. Do you think all of us are idiots? Bailey Hongzhuang slightly lifted her eyebrow. Her gaze sharp as she looked directly at Lin Jiesun. Even though she didn't know why this girl was hostile towards her, since it is someone who hates her then they are enemies. You should stop blowing your own trumpet. With so many people present, only an idiot like you would keep blindly barking. Her indifferent words chilled one to the bones with their disdain and intolerance. It was as though speaking another word to Ling Jiesun would be a waste of time. Pfft, Dongfang, you couldn't help but start laughing. The others also couldn't refrain from laughing, lips twitching uncontrollably. When Bailey Hongzhuang said to stop blowing your trumpet, they still didn't quite understand. So Bailey Hongzhuang was saying that it was fine if Ling Jiesun wants to be an idiot by herself, but she actually wanted to drag the rest of them along with her. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with laughter. She always saw Bailey Hongzhuang with a coolly indifferent expression on her face. Who knew that once she starts talking, her words would be so poisonous? Chapter 285. Ling Jiesun's face contorted. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to actually have the gall to curse at her so bluntly. She didn't even give the vice principal any face. Don't be too excessive, Ling Jiesun said with a sullen expression. She couldn't afford to lose her face in front of all these people, who all had some status within the Azure Swelling Water School. Cui Haoyan is your senior. Life is precious, yet you treat Cui Haoyan's life according to your own selfish desires. Are you still human? Ling Jiesun wasn't stupid. With just a few words, Bailey Hongzhuang had gotten the others to separate from her. At least Zhang Yunfeng stood by her side. Sure enough, Zhang Yunfeng's body began trembling, as her eyes seethed with rage. I am selfish. The black as ink phoenix eyes mocked the hateful light. How am I selfish? I don't understand. You've decided to cause a scene after becoming unable to impress the vice principal? I've already seen through this kind of underhanded trickery. Ling Jiesun had an aloof appearance as she raised her chin while paying attention to Huan Chuyu, taking care to make herself look as if she were full of grace and wisdom. Such foolishness. You really don't know about yourself. This is quite worrisome. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, pretending to be lamenting. In her mind, however, she was completely ridiculing her. What are you talking about? Ling Jiesun was startled. Her mind still didn't understand. Bailey Honghang was clearly in the disadvantageous position, but why did she still look so proud? No matter how much she thought, she still couldn't find a problem with her words. Our vice principal is wise. If I was just trying to make things complicated, wouldn't he easily see through it? Her beautiful face was filled with mockery. Maybe you would do such a disgraceful thing, but I wouldn't. Her voice was filled with contempt, confident and decisive. Bailey Honghang's face was cold as she spoke, every word spoken like a statement, leaving no room for debate. Ling Jiesun's face changed. She opened her mouth in protest, but couldn't find anything to say. Because if she said Bailey Honghang's words were wrong, it'd be the same thing as saying the vice principal was dumb. Gong Xiaoqing's face changed a little. They really hadn't believed in Bailey Honghang's medicinal skills, but after hearing her argument, they were reassured. If Bailey Honghang didn't have the skills, she wouldn't put up such a strong fight. Ling Jiesun couldn't talk back. She simply had no way to refute Bailey Hongzhuang. If she said Bailey Honghang was wrong, it was no different from saying that the vice principal wasn't wise enough. Thinking up to here, Ling Jiesun could only stare at Bailey Hongzhuang hatefully. She actually never thought that Bailey Honghang would have such a good mouth. EU Huan Chuyu looked at the two glaring at each other and didn't speak. As a vice principal, he had seen many students like that, but this Bailey Hongzhuang seemed very confident in her skills. There were some geniuses in the world that simply couldn't be thought of with common sense, young talents reaching heights others would never even dream of. Maybe this girl was such a person. The originally condemning Zhao Yunfeng no longer spoke. The vice principal's silence meant he made a decision. Bailey Honghang took out her silver needles from her wrap, accurately pricking Cui Haoyan's acupuncture point. Everybody's heart jumped. Bailey Honghang was only 15 years old, so her medical expertise was truly shocking. Chapter 286. If Xiao Zifan and the others were here, then they wouldn't worry. Bailey Hongzhuang's fame as a genius doctor had already spread throughout the imperial city. It need not to be said that her medical skills were high. One after the other, silver needles were inserted in Cui Haoyan's body. As Bailey Hongzhuang was doing the treatment so seriously, doing every action in one go, everyone suddenly felt that it was like she did have medical skills. When Bailey Hongzhuang inserted the first needle, a gleam passed through Huan Chuyu's eyes. This girl's medical skills were definitely not simple. He had seen a physician who mastered acupuncture before. This physician had introduced a few specifics of inserting needles. Fast, stable, accurate, steady hands without a trace of shaking, and the patient would not reveal even the slightest bit of discomfort. Bailey Hongzhuang obviously hit all these points. Even though he didn't really understand medicine, he could generally determine that there were no problems with the acupuncture points she used in the treatment. Before long, Cui Haoyan's body was covered with a mass of silver needles. At first glance, it would make people's scalps tingle. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly flicked her right hand above the silver needles. Like magic, all the silver needles began to vibrate in an orderly fashion. Lu Qinyue's calm eyes were filled with astonishment, vibrating. Vibrating needle technique. She had never seen the true vibrating needle technique before, but have heard her master talk about the vibrating needle technique's characteristics. Thus she recognized it the moment she saw it. The sureness of Lu Qinyue's words caused a stormy feeling to rise in everyone's heart. Vibrating needle technique. Unexpectedly, it was actually the vibrating needle technique. Wasn't it said that the vibrating needle technique had been long lost? And which acupuncture master wasn't an adult who is getting on in their years? Bailey Hongzhuang is but 15 years old, yet mastered the highest level vibrating needle technique. How is this possible? Everyone's lips couldn't help but twitch. Bailey Hongzhuang was really abnormal. Xia Jiqing widened her eyes. Aside from amazement, there was joy on her face. Hongzhuang is nothing less than a god. I really admire her. Bailey Hongzhuang mastered the vibrating needle technique. Doesn't that signify that the poison that stumped even the vice president is solved by Bailey Hongzhuang? Dongfang Yu's shiningly handsome face revealed surprise and marvel. Ever since knowing Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt that she was very different. However, he never thought she would be this incredible. Zhang Yinfeng's face was full of surprise. Looking at that serious figure, a trace of guilt emerged in her heart. All along, Bailey Hongzhuang really wanted to help Cui Haoyan out of the goodness from her heart. She was ashamed of her own attitude. Ling Jiasen's lips looked as if an egg was stuffed into it. She had this expression ever since the moment Bailey Hongzhuang applied the needles. Originally, she wanted to wait for a chance to ridicule Bailey Hongzhuang, making her understand the consequence of overestimating her own abilities. But now, a bad feeling had already crept up on her. A gleam flashed through Huan Chuyo's eyes. It seems that his eyes did not deceive him. Bailey Hongzhuang was really a talented person. The long-lost vibrating needle technique actually appeared in the hands of a teenaged girl. It looks like this Bailey Hongzhuang's master must be a terrifying physician. Before, he didn't know that the Azure Water School had such a talented little physician. The Azure Water School was really full of unnoticeable masters. Everyone held their breath. No one dared to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang for fear of affecting her treatment. Everyone clearly saw that following the vibrations of the silver needles, the black portions on Cui Haoyan's body quickly converged towards his left wrist. This black color was very frightening. In an instant, Cui Haoyan's left hand was entirely covered in a frightening deep black that it caused people's hearts to go cold. Chapter 287. Seeing this, an astonished light flashed through Huan Chuyo's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang really got rid of the poison. The green python's poison was scary because it would infect the body very quickly and was very hard to cure. Bailey Hongzhuang used acupuncture to remove all the poison and gathered all of it together. In this way, she solved the biggest problem. Cui Haoyan was basically saved. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head towards Huan Chuyu, who stood beside her. Vice Principal, do you have a blood-replenishing pill? Cui Haoyan was already very weak. There was a lot of blood that was contaminated with the poison. Once all of it was removed, Cui Haoyan would lose a lot of blood and would face another life-threatening crisis. Yes. I can handle this part. Huan Chuyu looked very focused. This time, there were many people who were injured outside and had lost a lot of blood, so he had refined many blood-replenishing pills. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly nodded her head. The trembling of the silver needles became faster and the poison in Cui Haoyan's left hand became darker and darker. It was as if there was an earthworm in him that would not stop moving, making everybody's hearts go cold. Just as the silver needles stopped trembling, Bailey Hongzhuang took a sharp knife and cut open Cui Haoyan's wrist. The black blood flowed out from his wrist continuously, and Cui Haoyan's body also slightly twitched. The poisonous blood made small sounds when it made contact with the iron basin. However, even though not all of the poisonous blood had flowed out yet, the iron basin was already completely corroded through by the poison. Seeing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They all knew that Cui Haoyan was poisoned with a very powerful and dangerous poison, But they did not think that the poison was this deadly. No wonder there were rotting wounds all over Cui Haoyan's body. Once the poisonous blood made contact with the floor, it started to corrode the floor. White bubbles kept on appearing, making people's backs go cold. As the poisonous blood left his body, Cui Haoyang's face was no longer as purple-black, but rather, it became as white as a sheet of paper. Just as all the poisonous blood was removed, Huan Chuyu put 2 blood-replenishing pills into Cui Haoyan's mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang began to wrap up the cut on Cui Haoyan's wrist. Her actions were very smooth and skilled, and she was very careful and concentrated. "It's good now." Bailey Hongzhuang stood up, looking at Huan Chuyu. "All the poison has been removed. You can take care of the rest." Cui Haoyan's injuries were very serious. She could only help him remove the poison. If he was to recover at the fastest speed possible, he would need lots of well-refined pills. Even though she could completely cure him, she would have to use more time than Huan Chuyu. Huan Chuyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with admiration. "You are also tired. Go rest." Only now did the crowd realize that Bailey Hongzhuang's forehead was covered with beads of sweat, and her beautifully exquisite face was also pale as snow. Clearly, this medical treatment was not as easy as they all had thought. Bailey Hongzhuang's burden was not small. The corner of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up in a beautiful smile. "Many thanks for Vice Principal's care." In Huan Chuyu's eyes, other than admiration, there was only praise. This little girl would definitely be powerful in the future. If one wanted to achieve such achievements at such an age, even if the master was extremely strong, if one did not put in effort, then there would still be no use. He simply did not think that Bailey Hongzhuang's actions were made to get his attention. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang's master would definitely not lose out against him when it came to skills. How could someone weaker than him produce disciples like this? Chapter 288. At this moment, a small moan attracted everybody's attention. The originally unconscious Cui Haoyan suddenly opened his eyes. Although his face still looked very sick, he was definitely much better than before. Cui Haoyan saw everybody staring at him before smiling in relief. He hadn't lost his life on Luoyun Mountain and finally returned to Azure Water School. Zhang Yunfeng immediately ran to Cui Haoyan. "Are you okay?" Cui Haoyan shook his head slightly. "It's tolerable. Right now, he only felt a bit weak." It was far better compared to the sharp pain he had felt earlier. Far, far better. Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but tear up, the depths of her eyes filled with love. Cui Haoyan's life was finally saved. Cui Haoyan frowned slightly, looking at Zhang Yunfeng tenderly. "I'm still not dead, so why are you crying?" "Sob, you were so close, so close." Zhang Yunfeng's tense mind finally collapsed as she cried, unable to stop her tears. Just a little bit and she wouldn't have been able to see Cui Haoyan ever again. The original solemn mood relaxed. Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu's lives were no longer in danger. This was already extremely lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang walked beside Xia Jiqing, who emotionally pulled on her hand. "Hongzhuang, you're amazing. Actually knowing that long-lost acupuncture technique." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Even 1,000 years ago, her Bailey family was known for their acupuncture techniques in Guanju continent. It was just too bad that she could never see those doting old elders again. The wall between Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan can finally be considered to be broken. Bailey Hongzhuang twinkled with a warm smile. Love will find a way, and eventually, everyone will be happy. Dong Fengyu stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's jade-like face, his eyes growing increasingly soft. "All thanks to you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Her job was already over, so after saying goodbye to Dong Fengyu, she returned to her room. Xia Jiqing also didn't stay. She still needed to attend class. After all, ordinary students didn't have as much freedom in their studies as the special enrollment students. In her room, Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating the demon-calling scripture. After going through a life and death experience at Luoyun Mountains, her cultivation had once again made a great leap. Cultivating comfortably was incomparable to cultivating through experience. Only by going through danger could one grow stronger and improve their cultivation. Sure enough, going to the school really was the right choice. The next day Bailey Honghang went to Azure Water City's market. Because it was so close to Azure Water School and students often frequented there, it had almost everything a cultivator would need. Bailey Honghang carried Baishur. The amount of food this guy ate was really enough to make her blush with shame. This time, she hadn't really gotten to hunt for demonic beast crystals, so Baishur's rations were already running out. The little guy tried every method of acting cute yesterday, rolling about for food, so today she could only go to the market to buy some demonic beast crystals. But the little guy's abilities really were out of the ordinary, so at least her hard-earned savings weren't going to waste. Just as she entered the market, Bailey Hongzhuang's ears were enveloped in noise. There were all kinds of noises as people haggled and fought over prices. It was an extremely lively scene. The city market was clearly specifically managed by somebody. All the booths were properly divided, going as far as the eyes could see. Many of the same booths had different items placed inside, waiting to be brought home. Chapter 289. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't need anything else. This time, she came only for demonic beast crystals. Also, she needed a lot of them. In the city, there weren't many people who sold demonic beast crystals. Most people directly gave their demonic beast crystals to the mercenary trade union. After all, aside from the pill masters, they weren't of much use for the students of Azure Water School. Bailey Hongzhuang strolled through the city. After searching for half a day, she still hadn't found anywhere to get demonic beast crystals. Even if she were to find some, they were the low-ranked ones of 1 or 2 stars. Suddenly, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes landed on a particular vendor's stand. All sorts of colorful demonic beast crystals were displayed in the booth. The seller was lazily dozing off from behind the chair. Baishur's eyes instantly grew big once he noticed the demonic beast crystals. His eyes looked like they were drooling as he continuously dug his hands in the air. He looked like he was itching to sleep on top of the demonic beast crystals. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Baishur's little head. She cannot let this guy directly eat on the streets. Be good, Bailey Hongzhuang stated. Originally, Baishur couldn't wait to pounce out, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, he obediently rested his upper body in Bailey Hongzhuang's embrace. However, his watery big eyes were still longing for the colorful demonic beast crystals. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in front of the vendor's stall. The seller was a big man in his 40s. His beard was shrubby and his hair was a mess. He looked like he didn't care about his appearance at all. Aside from the demonic beast crystals, there were also other items being displayed in the booth. But they were in very odd shapes. It was hard to distinguish what exactly they were. Up until now, this was the strangest booth Bailey Hongzhuang had ever came across. Other booths sold weapons-related items. This booth was too random. "Uncle, how much are these demonic beast crystals?" Bailey Hongzhuang inquired. The resting seller slowly opened his eyes as he indolently looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, not selling. The moment he uttered those words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel stunned. If he wasn't selling, then why did he put these items on display? "Oh? You're also here. What a coincidence." Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to ask why the seller wasn't selling, a sharp female voice rang from behind her. Bailey Hongzhuang turned around. As expected, she saw Lin Jiesin behind her. Lin Jiesin was wearing a yellow light muslin long skirt. Her fine black hair was combed into the most fashionable knot. Her looks were above average, but the arrogance that could be felt between her brows lowered her attraction level by quite a bit. Speaking of which, since yesterday, Bailey Hongzhuang already knew Lin Jiesin was hostile towards her. But she wasn't sure of the reason yet. She didn't want to waste time and energy on a woman who only had big boobs but no brain. "I didn't want to bump into you," Bailey Hongzhuang stated idly. Her pupils faintly revealed her annoyance. Lin Jiesin was stunned for a bit. Then, she began to laugh wordlessly. She didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would really give her no face. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you know who I am? Lin Jiasen's face was turning malicious. She proudly raised her chin and stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in an intimidate manner. She wanted her to know how powerful she was. But Bailey Hongzhuang didn't care. If you really want to speak, I can force myself to listen. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was apathetic. She didn't have the slightest impression of the name Lin Jiasen. You're the person who killed Yun Yang's sister, Ji Man. There was a ruthless glint in Lin Jiasen's eyes. She was friends with Ji Man. Who would have thought that Ji Man would forever depart from life on her way home? If it weren't for Lu Jingquan making that solemn vow, she almost wouldn't have believed it. Chapter 290. Bailey Hongzhuang's deep phoenix eyes shone with understanding and contempt. Only now did she understand. So Ling Jiasen is also Dai Yunyang's person. No wonder whenever they met, the other would reveal a deep hostility. Bailey Hongzhuang had already been at the Azure Water School for half a month. She has yet to see Dai Yunyang's person, but lackeys have coming running one after the other. This Dai Yunyang is like an unwanted ghost. Little Black had a look of disgust on its face. If he has the ability, then come in person instead of always sending some useless guys to do his dirty work. Maybe Dai Yunyang likes the feeling of sending people over and over again before making his grand appearance. Little White thoughtfully said as he rubbed his round chin. Listening to Little Black and Little White's conversation, a smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's lips. So, it's another one of Dai Yunyang's dogs. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were sharp and her voice filled with ridicule. If Dai Yunyang wants to find trouble, then let him do so himself. I don't have the time to spare for those small fries. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't polite. First it was Dai Jiman who came to find trouble for herself. Now, Dai Yunyang also came to find trouble on his own accord. She and the Dai family really aren't compatible. However, always getting Lu Jingquan, this kind of rubbish, to come and provoke her, Bailey Hongzhuang has already lost her patience. Dog, Ling Jiasen said shrilly, eyes glaring with hate at Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman dared to say she was a dog? Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm Yunyang's woman. Ling Jiasen's voice was loud and her hysterical and borderline crazy appearance attracted the attentions of many practitioners at the city square. Everyone curiously looked over. Apparently there was another spectacle happening in City Square. Ling Jiasen honestly broke down. She wasn't some lackey that followed behind Yunyang's every step, she was his woman. It was because of this identity that there was almost no one in the school that would dare to offend her. Even if it were the special enrollment students, if they see her they would still have to give her a little face. This Bailey Hongzhuang was unexpectedly so insolent. Oh? Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her lips slightly, eyes full of surprise and doubt. You are Dai Yunyang's woman? How come I haven't heard that he was already married? After these words were spoken, Ling Jiasen's arrogant face was instantly covered in a layer of cold frost with a faint trace of awkwardness. This was the place that hurt the most in her heart. Although she was willing to be Dai Yunyang's woman, a position that everyone knew about in school, in all this time Dai Yunyang had never brought her to his home. All along, her position was not a legitimate one. With Dai Yunyang's standing and reputation in the school, who would dare to say differently to her face? Unexpectedly, this Bailey Hongzhuang just had to talk about this thing in front of so many people. It was really detestable. We will get married very soon. Ling Jiasen had a strong expression, voice mixed with unspoken indignance. Oh. It's like that. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Well then, I'll congratulate you first. The words were clearly congratulatory, but in Ling Jiasen's ears they were full of sarcasm. She was clear that the reason Dai Yunyang never brought her home was because he never had the thought of marrying her. Even so, she is still willing to be Yunyang's woman. There was no lack of Azure Water School students in the onlooking practitioners. Upon seeing Ling Jiasen and Bailey Hongzhuang starting a conflict with each other, interested looks appeared on their faces. No matter if it's Bailey Hongzhuang or Ling Jiasen, both are famous within the Azure Water School. It was unexpected that they'd end up in conflict with each other. Bailey Hongzhuang killed Dai Jimon? Seriously? According to them, it should be that Bailey Hongzhuang killed Dai Jimon before she enrolled. Actually, why hasn't Dai Jimon enrolled at all this year? But Dai Jimon isn't weak. At that time, Bailey Hongzhuang was a student of the Azure Water School yet. How could she have killed her? Chapter 291. Everybody was surprised. As cultivators, killing wasn't strange at all, so what they were shocked about was that Bailey Hongzhuang actually had the strength to kill Dai Jimon. I heard that the first time Teacher Lu and Teacher Fu Hong invited Bailey Hongzhuang to the school, she had actually refused. A man suddenly revealed the news. The matter had already been spread everywhere in the Imperial City, so now even some of the students have already heard of it. Damn, is that really true? So arrogant? Everyone's faces were bewildered as their gazes clouded with doubt. Azure Water School's invitation letter was something all cultivators longed for, but then why would Bailey Hongzhuang actually refuse it? Of course it's true. Do you really think I'd just pull up some baseless rumors to say? The man's face was calm, but in fact, he had only just heard about it and exaggerated it. Wah, I really didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to actually be so awesome. No wonder she could kill Dai Jimon. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first cultivator in history to refuse Azure Water School's invitation letter, so naturally there must have been strength behind that confidence. They knew that Teacher Fu Hong and Teacher Lu really did treat Bailey Hongzhuang well. Acting so kind despite being rejected, it was very clear how important they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Ling Jiesun felt as if her anger was blocking her throat. Bailey Hongzhuang's mocking words and hidden meaning left her completely speechless. If you want to buy something from this shop, you need to take out something that interests the shopkeeper. Otherwise, all you can do is talk. Ling Jiesun's eyes shined. Since she couldn't beat her in other fields, she had to beat her in this. This booth was famous in Azure Water City Square for its difficulty, and the shopkeeper clearly wasn't lacking money, so the booth was always set here to do business. So far, the amount of students that were able to trade for something from the shop booth could be counted on one's fingers. It was exactly because the shop was so strange that made many Azure Water School students interested in this thing. Exchanging for something here was even something they could be proud of. Many cultivators would usually come to test their luck, but the result was always the same. They failed. Just looking at you, it's obvious you don't have anything special. Just give up. Ling Jiesun's words were filled with provocation. She wanted to trick Bailey Hongzhuang into impulsively trying to trade with the shopkeeper and fail miserably. I won't give up. This is my thing. If you're that free, it'd be better to think of a way to win Dai Yunyang's heart instead. Her deep, black eyes shone brilliantly. How couldn't she know of Ling Jiesun's little plot? Ling Jiesun's face turned stiff. Bailey Hongzhuang just had to hit her sore spot. Oh, so you don't have the guts? Bailey Hongzhuang crossed her hands and examined Ling Jiesun. Do you want to make a bet? What kind of bet? If I fail, then I'll give you 100,000 gold coins and 50 demonic beast crystals and vice versa. Do you dare? Her soft, indolent voice was mocking as she asked Ling Jiesun if she dared to make the gamble. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin as she looked at Ling Jiesun thoughtfully. It really would be a waste to not wreck this woman. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't have the leisure of wasting time with Ling Jiesun. Since she came to find trouble with her, she should pay the price. Hearing the stakes, Ling Jiesun couldn't help but be startled. Chapter 292. 100,000 gold coins, 50 demonic beast crystals. This wasn't a small amount. Even to her this was a large figure. Everyone who heard the bet gasped. Either one was not a price many cultivators could afford, yet Bailey Hongzhuang actually used both as a bet. Having this kind of confidence, it really gives people a jolt to the heart. Changed to whatever will be used in the previous chapter, they knew how bizarre this stall owner's temper was. Ordinary things wouldn't enter his eyes at all. Bailey Hongzhuang really so confident, or is it in order to swindle Ling Jiesin? No matter which possibility, they can tell that Bailey Hongzhuang is a wealthy person. Ling Jiesin just stood there, her pretty face showing awkwardness and hesitation. In this matter, she was the one who started provoking Bailey Hongzhuang. In front of all these cultivators, if she didn't reply, then wouldn't that be too humiliating? Ling Jiesin's eyes stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's face, trying to look at her face for some clues. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was still cool and indifferent, a faint smile on her lips. It wasn't possible to see her inner thoughts. What, you don't have the guts to? Bailey Hongzhuang returned the same sentence word for word to Ling Jiesin, making it even more ironic. A feeling of faint contempt came from the crowd. Amongst cultivators, there were more than a few times that disagreements resulted in being slapped in the face. However, something like giving the other a taste of his own medicine, giving him a hard slap in the blink of an eye, was still rarely seen. This Bailey Hongzhuang has quite the personality. It's really bad luck that Ling Jiesin went to her to look for trouble. I never thought that this Bailey Hongzhuang would have such a personality. I heard that she detoxified the heavily injured Cui Haoyan yesterday. And that was a toxin even the vice principal was at wit's end with. I've also heard that she isn't just talented in cultivation. Her medical skill are also outstanding. The Azure Water School students have always paid close attention to the special enrollment students. The matter of Cui Haoyan and Bai Junyu's serious injuries had spread throughout the school the moment they returned. Naturally, the news of detoxifying the poison had also quickly spread out. It was only then that everyone knew that the new beauty of the special enrollment students was actually a highly skilled doctor. Hearing the sounds of harsh sneers, Ling Jiesin's eyes showed a hint of anger. It was very possible that Bailey Hongzhuang was deliberately scaring her. If she really agreed, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be the one dumbfounded. She not so stupid as to let Bailey Hongzhuang jerk her around and around. Thinking of this, Ling Jiesin smiled sarcastically, I'll take that bet. Other than 100,000 gold coins, there were also an additional 50 demonic crystals. Once these have fallen into her hands, she would have a lot more cultivation resources. Wow! More and more cultivators were coming to watch the excitement. Even the stall owners in City Square, who weren't doing any business, came over. There's something exciting to see again. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrow, a bewitching smile on her face, that settled then. Don't worry, we will bear witness. Amongst the crowd, a loud male voice burst out. Then following that, everyone started patting their chests, yes. We will bear witness. Bailey Hongzhuang then walked in front of the stall owner, who was originally resting, but under the attention of so many people opened his eyes. Stall owner, I wonder what kind of things you are interested in, Bailey Hongzhuang asked. At least she had to know the stall owner's area of interest before deciding what to trade with. Pills, weapons, armor, equipment, nothing is off limits. However, I only want things relating to cultivation. Chapter 293. A light flashed through her gleaming dark phoenix eyes. The area of interest wasn't small. From what it looks like, it should be that the stall owner's standards are very high. Ling Jiesin was silent, only looking at Bailey Hongzhuang mockingly. She'd like to see what exactly Bailey Hongzhuang would bring out to get the stall owner's interest. Bailey Hongzhuang eyed the stall owner, suddenly noticing that the blue veins on his hands were protruding out like a dragon bellowing in rage. It was sinister and terrifying. Her lips curved into a bewitching smile full of confidence. She already had an idea. The next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang directly took a white porcelain bottle from the primordial chaos ring and showed it to the stall owner. I believe you'd be interested in this. Her voice was clear and melodious, full of confidence and assurance. If she guessed correctly, what the stall owner lacks is exactly this channel opening pill. Channel opening pill, grade 2 pill, used to widen the meridians. The wider the meridians, the stronger the available flow of spirit power. To cultivators, this greatly helps with enhancing their strength. However, meridians themselves weren't really wide. Cultivators with the qualifications could just use a channel opening pill to widen their meridian. On the other hand, those without qualifications could only attempt to use their own strength to widen their meridians little by little. This process was very difficult and one had to be very cautious when doing it. Once too much force was used, you'd end up in the same situation as the stall owner. I'm afraid that the stall owner hasn't been able to cultivate for a while now. However, there was something strange. Since the stall owner had so many demonic cores, he shouldn't be a poor person. Why doesn't he just buy a grade 2 channel opening pill? Seeing how confident Bailey Hongzhuang was, the stall owner couldn't help but have a trace of doubt in his deep and indifferent eyes. After taking the bottle and opening it, his face suddenly stiffened. The stall owner's eyes were rigidly fixed on the pill. The unique fragrance emitting from the pill clearly told him that this was a channel opening pill. He was not an alchemist and had no understanding towards pills whatsoever. He only recognized one kind of pill, channel opening pill. In the past he wasn't careful and inadvertently damaged his meridians. He experienced innumerable hardships to find an alchemist who could treat him. The alchemist told him that only the channel opening pill would be able to heal his injury. However, the pill formula for the channel opening pill had already been lost to time. At first he hasn't believed him, but after looking everywhere he found that the alchemist was telling the truth. Unable to continue cultivating and his cultivation coming to a stop, he opened a stall hoping that one day he'd find a channel opening pill. After so many years, he had almost lost all hope. But now, right in front of his eyes, that pill is definitely a channel opening pill. Ling Jiasun and the others looked questioningly at the stall owner, only seeing that the hand that held the white porcelain bottle was shaking and the stall owner seemed to be in his own world. What in the world did Bailey Hongzhuang give to the stall owner to have him show such an expression? Ling Jiasun furrowed her eyebrows. At this moment, she actually had a bad feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up slightly. From the stall owner's expression, she already determined that her judgment wasn't wrong. It was only after a long while that the stall owner turned his gaze onto Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes were bloodshot. This is a channel opening pill? His red eyes were restrained and filled with nervousness. His face was firm and calm. However, his trembling hands showed the fear in his heart. He was afraid that she would crush his hope again. When Ling Jiasun heard the words, channel opening pill, she couldn't help but laugh, thought. Stall owner, I think you're confused. The formula for the channel opening pill had been lost long ago. There is no way that there is a channel opening pill in this world. Chapter 294. Even if she wasn't an alchemist, she still understood that the pill formula for the channel opening pill had long been lost in the annals of history. It was ridiculous that the stall owner actually said such unsupported words. Shut up! The stall owner roared, his eyes reddened like an angry leopard, and didn't give Ling Jiasun any room to speak at all. Ling Jiasun was frightened by the stall owner's roar. She didn't understand why he was so angry. However, the stall owner no longer paid attention to her. His eyes once again gazed upon Bailey Hongzhuang, wanting to know her final answer. That's correct. Her voice, as crisp as the wind, was like the sound of nature to the stall owner's ears. It immersed him in a feeling of incredible happiness. The stall owner looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and then at the perfectly round high-quality pill. His heart was full of indescribable excitement. 10 years. A whole 10 years. He had not cultivated for a whole 10 years just to search for a trace of this impossibility. However, after 10 years his patience actually paid off. The stall owner reached out with one hand and grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's arm. Is what you're saying the truth? This is really the channel opening pill? A flash of doubt crossed the deep phoenix eyes before becoming clear again. 1,000 years ago, the channel opening pill wasn't some rare pill. Like the cultivating yuan pill, both were similarly common. From the stall owner's reaction, she determined a fact: in this time the channel opening pill had already been lost. Otherwise, the stall owner wouldn't be so worked up. A burst of pain came from the bones in her right hand, but Bailey Hongzhuang could understand the stall owner's excitement. At this point, the pressure on her hand disappeared. A figure suddenly appeared by her side and pulled the stall owner's hand off her arm. Her phoenix eyes slightly turned. Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to see the figure in black by her side. Gong Xiaoqing. Gong Xiaoqing was dressed in black robes as usual. His handsome, straight and tall posture was like a cypress, morally upright and lofty. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly surprised. She didn't think that Gong Xiaoqing would show up here and did not think that he would actually do this. Seeing Gong Xiaoqing appear, everyone sighed in their hearts. As the Azure Water School's top student, his strength and talent were not just talk. Ling Jiasen glared at Bailey Hongzhuang. In the Azure Water School, Gong Xiaoqing was notorious for being unapproachable. Yet he actually stood out to help Bailey Hongzhuang just now. It should be known that Gong Xiaoqing's name was synonymous with cold-bloodedness and brutality. If you weren't his friend, then even if you died right in front of him, he wouldn't even blink. It had only been a short half-month since Bailey Hongzhuang came to the Azure Water School and yet she had already been accepted by Gong Xiaoqing. Why did you come here? Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a light smile on her face. Usually, she felt that this guy's icy expression makes people very unhappy. Today, she felt that it was pretty good. Happened to pass by. His voice was as cold as always. But with Gong Xiaoqing's temperament, it was not bad that he could explain this much. Bailey Hongzhuang turned towards the stall owner and said, "It really is the channel opening pill. If you don't believe me, it can be appraised." The stall owner scrutinizingly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "I believe you." Over the years, he had looked through ancient books. In them the appearance of the channel opening pill was recorded. Moreover, as an Azure Water School student, Bailey Hongzhuang had no need to deceive him. Even if she deceived him, he could go to the Azure Water School to find her. Her elegantly perfect smile was framed by her elegant and refined appearance. "Then, you want to do business with me?" "Yes, yes, yes," the stall owner continuously nodded. "I will give you everything in this stall."